It takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to get it out of sight. Takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to get it out of sight. Let's go.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. All right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there for our monthly roundtable, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. We have a pretty big show for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's theme is Sometimes They Come Back. It was actually a movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but I felt like that title is so fitting for tonight's story. So we have quite a bit to get into. Quick update, guys. Things are moving pretty rapidly with a possible war with Iran. I made a video earlier today, so I already published that earlier today on my channel about that because things are moving so quickly. So if you haven't had a chance to see that, make sure you check out that video, because right now the US government is saying that they could strike Iran as early as Saturday. So I wanted to make sure I went ahead and got that video out for you, because tomorrow it could be something else. We don't know. We don't know. We're here for the ride. We are here for the ride, but we will see what happens. So first and foremost, I want to go ahead and give shout outs to people in the chat, ladies and gents. Like I said, quite a bit to get into tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to Kay Monet. Tucker Carlson is in the Epstein files list. He fooled a lot of people. He is also a pedophile. I wonder what Candace would say about this. I believe his relationship with Candace is fake. I haven't seen anything that shows that he's in the files. I mean, if you have that information, you're welcome to email it to me, but I haven't seen anything about him. And I would think that more people would have covered that if that was the case, but I haven't seen it. Shout out to Iconi. I swear I'm tired of all these ridiculously sick and evil people. Yes, they are. Greetings, Blockbuster says hi. Shout out to Flower. Sabby, please talk about US. There will be no organ food anymore. I'll have to look into that and see what that's all about. Shout out to Maddie. Of course, they did for a while, but now they can't. It's detrimental to the British royalty. Yeah, please answer that poll question that is pinned to the top of the live chat. I'm curious to get your opinion about this when it comes to the royal family. Greetings, Plum says the system encourages insanity. Yes, it does. Greeting What Democracy says Randy Andy meets karma. Shout out to Moo. Ramadan Mubarak. Sad that Prince Andrew is arrested for leaking secrets to Mossad spy Epstein and not for his exactly. That's what I'm going to get into tonight. Not for his assaults and pedophilia. Crimes only matter when those in power are affected. Yeah, and they already released him. So we're going to get into all of that tonight. Greetings, Lauren says Cat Abu for Congress in Illinois 09. Shout out to Casey. Sabby, I watched the American Next Top Model documentary last night, and the very first thing I thought, swear to God, was I wonder if Sabby saw this. Yeah, I saw it. Tyra is terrible and perfect next to EK in the thumbnail. Also, poor Miss J. Yeah, we're going to get into that one. We're going to make a connection between that and Naomi Campbell because we have some things to say about the modeling industry. Greetings, Steinbar says RIP Jesse Jackson. Shout out to Lucknor said, I had to read the full title. Shout out to American Indian Man says, I think the Royals disavowed Big Nasty Andrew. We're going to call him Big Nasty now, B&A, to protect their own asses. And I bet the Israelis got Andrew in a honeypot to squeeze the royal family. That's an interesting prediction. They are insufferable. Yeah. Greetings, Playmaker says the rich protect the rich. Yes, they do. Shout out to Ellen, who sends love. Greetings, Rich says Andrew, formerly known as Prince, arrested. Many people are evading accountability. Yeah. Greetings, Rich. Danny. Sorry, wrong one. Greetings, but Shiva. Hello, Sabby. Andrew did not get arrested for the sexual assault. We're going to get into that. He got arrested for government information to Epstein, and he's already been let out. Yep. Greetings, Mocha says, rich protect the rich because they're all guilty. Shout out to Lorez says, hi, Sabby, Eric, Corey, and RBN fam. Voted yes, of course they protected him. Help Sabby by watching ads and smashing the like. Do you guys get ads during live streams? Because we actually have an option on YouTube to allow that or not to allow it. And I don't have that selected. So if you're getting ads during live streams, let me know because you shouldn't be. Thank you. HH said the truth is way worse than I thought. Whitney Webb's terrifying. Oh, Whitney Webb was on redacted earlier today. Someone told me about that. I got to check that out. Greetings, Randy says, love you, Sabby, and good evening, revolutionary comrades. And Hannah says, I'm mad at Tyra. Yeah. A lot of people are. A lot of people are. No, okay, good. I was about to say, because I don't have that box checked, because I figure if it's a live stream, I don't want, it kind of disrupts the stream. You know what I mean? So you shouldn't see ads during a live stream. So just wanted to make sure that's not the case. Shout out to X Pharaoh for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give them a big whoop whoop. And Don Wood said, I must say again, you're doing a really good job on reporting the news to us, and I support you. Thank you. D. Davis said, love that pre-music. That's going to change too at some point. Scott, who was my editor for my documentary, is working on a brand new intro for the show because that one's been there for quite a bit. The music's going to change. The video's going to change. And I saw what he kind of put together already. So it looks really good. I like it. I hope you guys like it as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you, fam. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories for you. We have the ultimate. Don't forget about those Sabinators. They're pretty cool. There's also a group called Sabsters. I like them a lot. Yes, I do. But I also love the Sabbies. They're listed here as well. And last but not least, we cannot forget about the members. We love them as well. Thank you guys so much. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Based fam. Let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, tonight's theme is Sometimes They Come Back. And in a haunting way. So let's go ahead and look at that thumbnail and show you what we are discussing tonight, ladies and gents. Tonight, well, it happened. Prince Andrew was arrested early. I saw this first thing Thursday morning, excuse me. Prince Andrew was arrested. He has already been released, but he's arrested involving Epstein, but not for the sexual crimes. And that's the most damning part. We're going to get into that and what King Charles had to say about all of this. We're also going to discuss, I don't know if everybody's heard about this, but Tucker Carlson was detained in Israel. We're going to discuss why he was there in the first place, why Mike Huckabee is trying to lie on him. I really do feel like this was a trap. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like Mike Huckabee tried to set Tucker Carlson up. We'll get into all of that as well. We're also going to discuss, this one was sent my way, another thing I missed from the Epstein files, but this is very damning. Apparently, according to the files and emails in the files, it sounds like Jeffrey Epstein allegedly was hunting Black people. I kid you not. We're going to get into that. We're also going to discuss Tyra Banks, former supermodel, is not having a good week after this new docuseries just dropped on Netflix, which she is a part of. People are not happy with her and her reluctancy to be accountable with her role in some of the really controversial things that happened with America's Next Top Model. And there's two incidents that we're going to discuss on this show where I feel like Tyra should have taken more responsibility. And last but not least, we have a new reveal here about Erika Kirk. We're going to talk a little bit more about her family tree. We've talked about, what her mom occupation and her dad's occupation, but we're going to go a little bit further because it appears that Erika has even more connections than I realize to some people in some pretty high places. So a lot of things are coming out, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the theme is Sometimes They Come Back. So let's go ahead and dive into it, ladies and gents. If you haven't had a chance to do so, could you do me a solid and smash that like button? And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's do the damn thing. Let's get into this first story here about Tucker Carlson. So, this here shows you that no one is exempt and no one is immune, because Tucker Carlson, journalist, really well known, he traveled to Israel. We're going to get into why he was there in the first place. And he was detained apparently in the Ben Gurion airport. This is a big one. Him and Mike Huckabee had been going back and forth on X past couple of days about how Christians are treated in Israel. And so that's what prompted a lot of this. So Tucker Carlson agreed to go there to interview Mike Huckabee. Little did he know what would happen after that. Now, before he went there, and I wonder if this also has something to do with it. Before he went there, he had an interview with a Christian pastor, Faris Ibrahim. And this pastor told Tucker Carlson something about Mike Johnson. Listen to what he says.
Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House.
Oh, yes.
He's a very prominent evangelical third in line presidency. Last August, he went to Israel. He prayed at the Western Wall. He went to a settlement in the West Bank. And he planted trees in those settlements in the West Bank. And he declared that these Judean and Sumerian hills belong to the Jewish people by divine right. What
We're
John,
going to be so punished for this. We're going to be punished for this. I'm just telling you.
he never interacted and met with the, people go and visit the dead stones, but they forget about the living stones. There are people there who are suffering because of this system that keeps oppressing them and applying pressure, and their numbers are shrinking. The people are leaving. Mike.
So he was telling Tucker Carlson that Mike Johnson went there and planted a tree or whatever in the West Bank and said that this is for Israel. Mike Johnson is another one that is very much captured and bows to the state of Israel. But this interview, from what I understand, happened before Tucker Carlson went to Israel to interview Mike Huckabee, because if you watch the full interview, which I think many have seen, but if you watch the full interview at the very beginning, Tucker Carlson says, we're going to Israel and here's the reason why. So he explained, why they were going there. Now, I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't think he should have went, because I feel like if Mike Huckabee wanted to have an interview with Tucker Carlson, Mike Huckabee could have done that interview right here in the US. That's how I feel. But he went there. And another thing that was mentioned during this interview here with the Christian pastor was what Tucker Carlson said about the politicians being captured.
And that, you wind up, as I know, you wind up with Christian politicians who are constantly invoking the name of Jesus, supporting the murder of their fellow Christians in the Levant. So that is I think that's very serious. I don't think you should do that. I think you're going to suffer for that. Don't do that. How can you excuse or aid in the murder of innocents in the name of Jesus? And I've said this directly to a bunch of these politicians because I get very upset about it. And they're under a spell. They don't, even in private, they're well, we have to. What is that?
Last December.
Yeah. So you guys know Tucker Carlson has been pretty vocal about not supporting not just Israel, but we need to focus on what's happening right here in America. Politicians shouldn't be bending the knee to another country. And he's been very vocal about that. And because of that, he's been attacked by a number of people on the right. So he decided, I guess, to settle this with Mike Huckabee about how Christians are being treated in Israel. And he announces it here, why he decided to go. So listen to this.
First is we're flying to Jerusalem to interview Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee is, of course, the American ambassador to Israel, someone I've known for over 30 years and always liked, and also a Baptist preacher of some kind, but certainly a prominent Baptist religious figure, also U.S. ambassador, and someone who has views that I just don't agree with at all on questions of American foreign policy and also on questions of theology. He's a famous Christian Zionist, and a famous proponent of neocon foreign policy. I disagree with both. However, it seems like of all the people you could talk to, maybe Mike Huckabee is a guy you could talk to in a reasonable way, in a calm way, without shouting or hatred. By the way, if you want a picture of what hell itself is like, it's shouting and hatred. It's a large group of people screaming, calling for violence. That is literally a picture of hell, and don't live in it if you can help it. We don't want to. So maybe Huckabee is the guy to begin a reasonable conversation about what's best for the United States and what's true about Christian theology. So we're going to try. We're flying to Jerusalem. Difficult to do, not without risk, but we're doing it because we really believe that the direction that this conversation is moving is bad. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for the country, and it's bad for our souls.
Well, they flew there to interview Mike Huckabee. Again, I don't see Mike Huckabee as reasonable, especially on this issue. If I was Tucker Carlson, I would have said, if you want to have this conversation, we need to have it, right here. We could do this conversation virtually or whatever. But Mike Huckabee, I guess, wanted him to come there to show him, we'll show you how Christians are treated so you can see it for yourself. Now, from what I understand, Tucker Carlson didn't even go. From what I understand, I don't think he even left the airport, but apparently he was detained. And many are starting to ask, did Mike Huckabee set up Tucker Carlson. Let's go ahead and get into it. He spoke with the Daily Mail, and Mike Huckabee is already trying to deny this. Tucker Carlson detained in Israel. Journalists dragged into interrogation room as explosive interview sparks diplomatic firestorm. Conservative podcasting titan Tucker Carlson said he and his staff were detained in Israel on Wednesday following an interview with Donald Trump's ambassador to the country. Of course, that was Mike Huckabee. The former Fox News host flew into Tel Aviv for a sit-down with Mike Huckabee, who challenged Carlson to speak to him directly following an online spat about the country's treatment of Christians. Carlson, who also frequently criticizes Israel for its military actions in Gaza, took Huckabee up on his offer. But as critics and pro-Israel activists began piling on Carlson for purportedly not leaving the airport during his brief visit, he revealed that he was met with hostility in the Middle Eastern country. So he didn't even leave the airport. It goes on to say, Carlson exclusively told the Daily Mail that shortly after the interview, Israeli officials confiscated his passport and hauled one of his colleagues off to an interrogation room. Men who identified themselves as airport security took our passports, hauled our executive producer in a side room, and then demanded to know what we spoke to Ambassador Huckabee about. Now, again, Mike Huckabee is an American citizen. Why do they need to know what he talked to Mike Huckabee about? It's a pariah. It was bizarre. We're now out of the country. Prior to the interview, Carlson posted a photo on X of himself and his business partner, Neil Patel. They were in front of the Ben Gurion airport on Wednesday with the caption, "Greetings from Israel." Let's continue on a little bit more here. Of course, you guys know what Mike Huckabee looks like. Too bad Tucker stayed in the airport in the face of so many invitations to see so many wonderful places. A huge and obviously intentional missed opportunity. That's coming from David Friedman, who is the former U.S. ambassador to Israel during Trump's first term. Two sources familiar with the matter, however, told the Daily Mail that the Israeli government initially did not want to allow Carlson into the country, prompting a delicate negotiation involving the State Department. So this is a big red flag. They did not want him there. Again, we showed the video of members of the Likud party saying that Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens need to be taken down. So, of course, they were not going to send a welcoming invitation to Tucker Carlson. In the end, the Israeli government decided not to bar Carlson from entering the country in order to avoid a diplomatic incident. A spokesman for the U.S. Embassy in Israel denied that Carlson was detained, of course, and claimed he received the same passport control questions that countless visitors to Israel, including Ambassador Huckabee and other diplomats, received as part of a normal entrance and exit from Israel. Well, no, that's not possible, because he said they asked him, what did he speak to Mike Huckabee about? So the treatment was not the same. It is not accurate that Israel only was going to let Tucker into the country for an interview, the representative added. The only engagement the embassy had with Israel about his visit was to coordinate his private plane landing as part of facilitating a seamless visit. It was Tucker who chose to only come into the country for a few hours and depart, and Tucker received the same positive treatment of any visitors to Israel. So what I will say about that is, what does that say about the state of Israel, that this is how you would treat visitors? Again, they may say, oh, well, security, protection, we have to protect ourselves. Okay, it's a little bit extreme, don't you think? You have to protect yourselves. You're the one that's already attacking, you're always attacking everyone else. So you'll see this here, that Gen X girl shared this. Tucker Carlson interviews Mike Huckabee, Israel freaks out. So check this out here, because Mike Huckabee, like I said, he's trying to call BS on this. Listen.
Shortly after the Daily Mail article was published, the Israeli government, Israeli media, Israeli influencers, and U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee jumped on social media in what appears to be a coordinated campaign to call Carlson a liar, while simultaneously admitting Israel airport security did in fact detain and question him. U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, citing a literal Israeli propagandist who attended Israel's paid influencer event and is a self-described Israeli who served in the IDF, Mike Huckabee quickly sided with Israel instead of Tucker Carlson, an American who was on his return flight to the U.S.
That just goes to show you just how corrupt he is, right? So here's the tweets here from Mike Huckabee, where he's just retweeting, reposting propagandists. He was willing to side with a member of the IDF before he would believe a word that another American citizen said. So that just tells you who Mike Huckabee really appreciates and values here.
In a separate post, Huckabee sided with another Israeli who admitted to Tucker Carlson's interrogation, but per their usual propaganda, claimed it was a nice chat. AIPAC. Israel lobby's biggest player, AIPAC, quickly jumped to Mike Huckabee's defense by claiming Huckabee stood on principle and told the truth, so Tucker had to invent a bogus lie to change the story. AIPAC also referred to Carlson as a Qatari resident, a dog whistle to their year-long campaign of painting Carlson as an agent of Qatar because he criticizes Israel.
So do you guys see this? The craziness, and Mike Huckabee participated in it. So the good news is that Tucker Carlson was able to get back to the U.S., but just because he came back, like I said, sometimes they come back, that doesn't mean he wasn't detained. That doesn't mean he wasn't treated inappropriately. See, that's the catch. There are many people on social media saying, well, he made it back here, so what's the big deal? That doesn't mean he wasn't detained, right? Rick Sanchez talked about his own experience, and I thought this was interesting. Rick says he believes Tucker Carlson. Listen to this.
Hey, everybody, I'm Rick Sanchez, and I wanted to comment on the situation with Tucker Carlson. Full transparency, Tucker is my friend. He and I communicate quite often, just this morning, I communicated with him, not to divulge anything that we communicated about, but the reason I say that is because I trust Tucker, and if Tucker says that he was detained or felt like he was detained at Ben Gurion Airport, then I take him at his word, despite what many in the media are doing, which is criticizing him, The Independent. I was just reading an article. They have a huge headline that says Tucker Carlson claims. The word claims implies that they're doubting his story. They're basically trying to call him a liar. I think this is an important story. And let me say something to you, and maybe this is kind of a teaser, but let me ask you a question, or maybe I'm asking myself this question. If I had a choice between being detained or held by Israeli security officials or Iranian security officials, which one would I choose and why? I'm going to give the answer to that question in just a little bit, and I have a little bit of experience with it because double deep tease, I was just recently detained by Iranian security officials for 2.5 hours, kind of similar to the situation that Tucker was in. And let me tell you something, no matter who detains you, when you lose your freedom and you feel vulnerable like that, it's scary as hell, okay? You don't know what's going on. You know you can't leave. You know you're being held, and you don't know what's going to happen, and it gets a little dicey. So let's go back to what Tucker situation is. So Tucker Carlson went along with his business partner, Neil Patel. There's a picture of them now that Tucker put out. It's the only one that they have put out so far. While they were there at Ben Gurion Airport, after arriving, they went to have a meeting with Mike Huckabee. And after the meeting with Mike Huckabee, they went back to the airport. But first of all,
again, this is why sometimes I wonder if this was a trap. I wonder if Mike Huckabee did this to try to trap Tucker Carlson or something like that.
Why the meeting with Mike Huckabee? He went to meet with Mike Huckabee because Huckabee had taken offense to the fact that Tucker had criticized him. Why had Tucker criticized him? Tucker had criticized him because Mike Huckabee is a Christian Zionist. He is a neocon, kind of like a Lindsey Graham type or Hillary Clinton type, exactly the same in that sense. But Mr. Huckabee seems, even though he works for the United States and is the ambassador from the United States to Israel, he always seems much more beholden and much more loyal to Israel than he is to the United States, by far. So it's curious because that's not usually the role of a diplomat when he's sent overseas to represent his country. Tucker has said that on various occasions, and he's absolutely, I believe, right in that criticism. So Mr. Huckabee then took to social media and started criticizing Mr. Carlson, basically saying something to the effect of, oh, you're a big guy criticizing me, but why don't you come and say this stuff to my face? Which is pretty much what he told him. And Tucker said, okay, I'll get on a plane and I'll go talk to you to your face. And which is why Tucker is in Israel talking to him. Somewhat courageous of Tucker to go there, by the way. So Tucker's story is that after he did the interview with Huckabee, he was stopped by security officials at the airport, and those officials at the airport took his passport and his producer into a holding area and started interviewing him, debriefing him. I don't know what word you want to use, but when you're being asked questions you don't necessarily want to answer, and you know you have permission from the ambassador of the United States in that country, why are they doing this? Why are they asking him questions? Call Mike Huckabee. He works for you too, and for the United States of America, right? Dual role. Why are you asking me these questions? Why are you taking my passport? Why are you doing these things? I think it's a legitimate complaint. I think it's a legitimate question. And I think that's the one that Tucker's raising or bringing to the forefront in all of this. Nonetheless, now there are some questions about whether he was actually detained or not. So you know, Tucker has left Israel. He was able to get out. And all he was saying this was a very uncomfortable moment.
So what I will add here, and some people look at detained as different things. Like some people feel like detained means you got arrested. But detained basically means that, like, yeah, they'll take you aside, they'll pull you in one of those rooms and start asking you all these questions. Someone mentioned in the chat, but the reality is that people have been known to miss their flights because of that. We don't know. I imagine at some point Tucker Carlson is going to come forward and talk about this publicly. I imagine so, at least. But the reality is, I just feel like this was a setup from Mike Huckabee. I think that Mike Huckabee did not have good intentions going into this at all. And if I was Tucker Carlson, I would have never gone over there to begin with. Mike Huckabee could have had that conversation with Tucker Carlson right here in the US. It didn't have to be in Israel. And I don't know. And you got to look at it this way. Had it been anyone else, they may not have made it back here. Jeremy Lafredo, who's a journalist with the Gray Zone, Jeremy Lafredo went to Israel, to do some reporting, and he was put into a prison for a couple of days. Like, I don't know if everyone remembers this story, but that's what I'm saying. Like, had it been, Jeremy Lafredo in that situation, he may have been thrown right back in prison. So you never know, but we'll have to see. We'll see. We'll see what he says. Like I said, I imagine he's probably going to make a statement publicly at some point in time. But I do feel like this was just some type of trick from Mike Huckabee. Just being honest with you. I don't trust Mike Huckabee. I think he's full of shit. But he is back. And sometimes they do come back. So we will see. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Hey. All right. Thank you for the super chat, ears that hear. The Redacted show that hosted Whitney Webb today said near the end of the show that the reporter lied about Tucker being detained. True? ? Who knows? We'll have to wait till we hear from directly from him. Thank you for the super sticker, Abu. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, Brad. Media are just uniparty assets. F. Carlson and F. Huckabee are just doing their bit to pump up anti-Israel rhetoric to scare us Jews back home. Okay, this sounds like a troll. I don't even know why you sent a super chat to say this. That's not what this is about. So you can go. Boy, I tell you, so weird to me. Sorry for that one, guys. Sorry we got a troll, but it wouldn't be the first time. All right, ladies and gents, if you haven't done so, please smash that like, and we're going to keep it moving and grooving and go to the next story here. I have quite a bit to say about this one. Let's go ahead and put it up on the screen because I'm about to go off. So I just finished the docuseries about America's Next Top Model. And there have been other documentaries about this show, but this one actually features Tyra Banks, former supermodel, who was the host, creator of the show. So you actually get to hear from her about some of the decisions that were made. For people who are not aware, this is Tyra Banks, former supermodel. During that time, back in that day, models and supermodel was still like a big thing. This is before the era of the influencer on Instagram and Facebook, etc. Right? Tyra Banks was a supermodel, and she decided to come up with a reality show where it was models meet the real world. So basically, she would pick women to become America's Next Top Model. It was a modeling contest. And if you won, then you got this contract with CoverGirl, and you apparently were assigned to, I think it was elite models at that point in time, but you were supposed to be all set. And what she did with this show is that I said it was kind of a mixture of that in the real world, because it was a reality show. So it wasn't just the competitions. The models all lived like in an apartment together. And so you saw everything that happened outside of the competitions as well. There are two incidents in particular that we're going to talk about on this show tonight that Tyra Banks needs to take accountability for. You know, over the years, some of the girls that were contestants on this show, they came forward and spoke out. Many of these girls that won on this show found out they didn't actually have a contract with CoverGirl after the show was over. Many of them found out that their portfolio that they built while they were on this show was not usable in the real world because the modeling agencies didn't take them seriously because they came from a reality show. So a lot of these girls ended up going into acting, other forms of entertainment. There's a couple of them that did get into modeling, but most of them, even the winners, did not, for the reasons that I just told you. At that time, this show was popular, very popular. I didn't see all of the seasons, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second, because it went in a direction that I didn't feel comfortable with. But the first season I did really like. I thought this was really, really cool, kind of great, you know? What people have to understand is that through those 3 episodes of this docuseries, what pissed me off was that Tyra Banks was not willing to take full accountability, in particular for 2 incidents that I think she should have taken accountability for that happened during the filming of this show. And I'm going to tell you how I feel this all connects back to Naomi Campbell, the modeling industry, and this trafficking with Jeffrey Epstein, because Naomi Campbell was buddy-buddy with Jeffrey Epstein, as I'm going to show you. This show, after the first season, it seemed like they were willing to do anything to get more ratings. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching women that are like a size 2 get told to their face that they're fat, that they're ugly, and that got worse and worse as the seasons went on, right? But that's even the mild part, right? We'll go to the next picture here. This show consisted of these 3 gentlemen here. You had Nigel Barker, who was a photographer, also a former model, and you had the J's. You had Miss J here, who taught the girls how to walk on the runway. Miss J was working it, honey. And you had a J here, who was also a makeup artist, also on the creative side. He was helping the girls like figure out how to pose for some of these photo shoots. First and foremost, Miss J right here in the middle had a stroke. And I found it very interesting that during this docuseries, like these were people that Tyra said were her closest friends and she was very close to. Miss J said, till this day, Tyra Banks has not visited him. Tyra pretty much cut off contact with them after the show was done. This is what they said. And she's on the docuseries too. Now, there were 2 incidents that should give you pause. One of them involves an incident of sexual assault. And what bothered me was that at the time, watching the show, it was framed that Shandy, who was a contestant, cheated on her boyfriend. She got drunk. They were hanging out with these guys, and she cheated on her boyfriend. Shandy was made to look very bad during this part of the show. For those who are not aware, this is Shandy right here with the blonde hair. I'm going to tell you what they did to this girl. And so Shandy got drunk, hooked up with this guy, and then called her boyfriend and told him, again, it's a reality show, so you're seeing all of this. Her boyfriend yelled at her, rightfully so. He was pissed. She was very much embarrassed. Shandy is on the docuseries. And for the very first time, I find out that apparently it wasn't that Shandy cheated on her boyfriend. Shandy, in her own words, said that she was blacked out and she woke up with the guy on top of her. And what makes it worse is that she said they continued to film. Let's get into it right here, because this is the part I think that people should be the most angry about. Cycle 2, Shandy Sullivan has sex during production when she's blackout drunk. So listen to this. A lot of people are talking about this right now. So they were in Milan during this part here. Let's go down to this part. The second episode picks up from there with Sullivan sharing her story. I think I had 2 bottles of wine by myself, she says. I had not eaten all day. She was in a hot tub with one of the guys and they begin kissing. This is the part that floored me. I was blacked out for a lot of it. I didn't even feel sex happening. I just knew it was happening. And then I passed out. She woke up the next morning and cried hysterically. The event became a storyline in a way that was shocking in 2026. The show framed it as if she had cheated on her longtime boyfriend, Eric, and Banks even had a sisterly talk with her on camera about the perils of infidelity in relationships. Shandy wanted to go home and she wanted to talk to Eric on the phone. Production filmed her calling him. This is what I was telling you about. I did the worst possible thing I could do. That was her on the phone. What unfolded is an indelible memory to anyone who saw this scene. You had sex. Eric screeched at her, "You stupid bitch." Sullivan says there were only 2 members of the crew with her during the scene, a camera operator and a sound guy. We're really, really sorry that we had to film that. They just knew this isn't right. Why are we filming this? But let's go back. But they didn't have to film it. And what really floored me is if you see that episode, it's not presented the way that Shandy tells the story. It was presented that she just got drunk and she ended up having sex with this guy. So for the first time, we are hearing that she was inebriated, that she was blacked out. And Shandy said they filmed it. They filmed all of it. No intervention whatsoever. Again, we got to start asking questions here about the modeling industry. So that really takes me back, sets me aback, because Tyra is in this docuseries and Tyra's response is, well, you know, during the time, yeah, we had the ratings, you know, and we had to do these things. And yeah, it was a different time. What bothered me is that she was not willing to take accountability. No way that should have been filmed. If anything, she's blacked out. Why didn't anybody step in to protect this girl? The second incident was Kenya. This was one of the other contestants. Kenya, and I'm showing you this picture because it was this photo shoot that was the problem. She is also in the docuseries. Kenya said to the photographers at the time that this guy right here was hitting on her even before they started doing the photo shoot, and that he was touching her inappropriately and that he was moaning next to her. Kenya was made to look like the bad person on the show. Instead of saying, okay, listen, stop production. You cannot do this against her will. Jay and the judges later on, they pointed their finger at Kenya when she did the right thing. She stopped during the photo shoot and she said, wait a minute. She said, I am not comfortable. He is touching me inappropriately, which was not a part of the assignment. They were supposed to be dancing. And he is moaning next to me. I don't feel comfortable. This is what she said. They told her she got to learn how to push through it. Tyra still was not willing to take accountability, even today. You can see one part here. This girl talked about it. I'm telling you guys, everybody is talking about this. Now this is coming out. I just want to show you this. You see this comment here? There has to be a way that you can handle it. That was the comment from Nigel to Kenya when she complained about what he was doing. Let me come back out because I have to play this part. Don't want to get copyright, and then come back in when she responds. You know, you have to be able to be in control. I couldn't, like, honestly, I was baffled, you guys. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is why I couldn't finish watching the other seasons of that show, because even then, I don't care. Tyra can say it was a different time. It was the early 2000s. Even then, I knew that was wrong. And instead of the judges saying, yeah, you should not be treated that way, you should not be put in an uncomfortable position, they blamed her. So listen to what this girl says here.
In control.
Like, why tell the model she has to find a way to handle it? You guys need to provide a comfortable and safe environment to these models. That's your responsibility.
So yeah, she had a good point. And Janice Dickinson there at the end was one of the worst ones. Miss Janice Dickinson, who was very nasty to a lot of these girls, telling them she's fat, she's ugly, she's this, she's that. Very nasty. There was a girl on the show who was a contestant that had an eating disorder. And I am literally at home. And yeah, you know, the modeling industry considers certain sizes to be overweight and some, you know, we get it. But I'm at home and I'm watching a girl who's a stick figure, and I am watching Janice Dickinson, and Tyra adds into some of this too, tell these girls that they are fat. Some people were saying that we should give Tyra more grace. Some people are saying, well, she was trying to make it in reality TV at that time. As a woman, she had a lot of pressure on her. Okay, so that means you should just film a sexual assault? That means that you're willing to do just anything for ratings? And I wondered what happened to a lot of these girls, like, over the years, because I ain't see them on no covers of any magazines. So I was wondering, like, okay, I thought they had a contract with CoverGirl. What's going on? You come to find out that wasn't the case for the majority of them. You find out how Tyra also treated her so-called friends, Nigel and the two J's. All of them speak out about it. And she wasn't willing to take responsibility. And that is what is bothering a lot of people. Her big excuse is it was a different time. Now, I will say this, during that time, during the early 2000s, skinny was the big thing. It was all about if you're skinny. Like, even what you see now with strength training is really pushed, right? Like, now it seems to be more popular for women to lift weights and all that type of stuff, or to have curves. During that time, skinny was everywhere and it was a big thing. And I get that. But I felt like the show took it to extremes. And I felt like every season became more and more extreme. And at the end of the day, I just felt like Tyra was really trying to look out for herself. One of the girls was just recently on News Nation. I want you to hear what she had to say. I think this is Giselle.
What was it like to speak out 23 years after you were a contestant, and in this way?
This has been so surreal for me. I never thought I would have this opportunity. Back in my time, we didn't have social media, so there was nowhere for us to let our voices be heard after we got off the show. So when I was approached for this, I was like, you know, a little apprehensive. Now with social media, people are probably just going to attack me. But I said, you know what, now is my time on a big platform like Netflix to share my side of the story. So it's been quite a wild ride. I've been up since 4 a.m. this morning. It's been nuts.
Some say the judges and Tyra Banks offered more excuses than real apologies for what happened in the show. Do you agree?
Oh my gosh. So I'm watching a live with Jay Manuel and Nigel Barker, and they're saying, now's the time maybe for us to make amends. And I was like, okay, great. Let me tune into this documentary and let's see this amends. Let's the apologies. Where is it? Nope, not one. Accountability, nowhere to be found. And I hate that word because I feel like it's overused. But no, I feel like it was just nothing but blah, blah, blah for them mostly. And we were just kind of like sprinkled in there.
In the program, you talk about something that is a common theme. You talk about your weight and it comments about your weight. What happened?
Well, for me, I was the youngest girl on this show, right? And I was a ballet dancer. I was already modeling. So, I felt that I was in great pristine shape and beautiful and confident and ready to be there. And I was supposed to be there. And so when it aired and I saw that Tyra was saying that I had a wide ass, I was like, well, what should I do? I don't even have any body percent fat here. Do you want me to like shave down my hip bones? And as you can see later in the seasons, that might have been an option because they were removing people's teeth.
Yep. That's how extreme it got. They started removing people's teeth, and they would do things like, if you came in with a head full of hair, they would just shave all your hair off. Just like stuff like that. That was part of the whole makeover series, right? And some girls were traumatized. Like they didn't know what was going to happen when they got there for those things. But yeah, they were removing people's teeth. Anything for TV.
It's not easy talking about this and having to relive this, which does make me wonder real quick, if there was another cycle, if there was another season, what do you hope the producers would do differently?
Okay, but wait a minute. Is this really a thing? Because when she said that at the end of the documentary, I thought she was just being, facetious, or it wasn't that literal. She's in her era of pivoting. But if this is true, I just don't see how it'll be successful because it was built off of all the, controversy at a time where people accepted that and loved it. Now people would be in jail, I feel. So
yes,
let's see if they do it. Let's see if they do it. Giselle Sampson, I really appreciate you taking the time. I wish we had a little bit more time, but I hope everybody gets a chance to watch and see what was going on. But thank you. I appreciate it.
If you haven't had a chance to watch it, definitely check it out. ADR said, sounds like hazing. That's exactly what it felt like. But the way some of these women were treated was just, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. What can we do for TV, right? At the end of the docuseries, one of the things that she does say, Tyra, she says that she's got a new project coming. Now, from what I understand, I think she lives in Australia now or whatever. I sincerely hope she's not trying to do some new model show again, where all of a sudden now she appreciates curves and hips and all that type of stuff. I don't even want to see it. Like, I don't want to see it. Like, I really did expect after all these years, she would come back and say, you know what? That was wrong. I was wrong. I need to take accountability for this. I need to take accountability for that. But no, she's still living in her ego. And that was very obvious. And we got to bring up another thing, because I'm going to make this connection to Naomi Campbell, because see, I wasn't born yesterday. Tyra Banks, when she became a model, she was very young. She was a teenager, which is fairly common in the modeling industry. At least it was back then. The way she tells it, she got on a plane, went off to Europe to start modeling by herself, left her mom, in the US. She said it was the first time she left the country. Now that we are more into the Epstein stuff, we know the modeling industry also implicated in the trafficking. And I often wonder, what did Tyra see? What did Tyra see to the point where she was willing to allow someone to be recorded while they're sexually assaulted and not stop that, not stop production? She had authority to do so. What did Tyra see that made her think it was okay to tell Kenya that she just got to figure out how to deal with it when a guy was touching her inappropriately and she said, stop shooting? He is touching me inappropriately. What else was Kenya supposed to do? because I don't hear too much about her and what she may have seen during that time. Because we know what Naomi Campbell saw. And we know Naomi Campbell was very close to Jeffrey Epstein. As much as she tries to play that down, Naomi Campbell knew Jeffrey Epstein going all the way back to 2001. In fact, a couple of months ago, I covered this. Whitney Webb had an article where she was talking about how Naomi Campbell is the woman who connects Epstein to Diddy. And I want to show you this part here because this is where we showed some of those pictures so you can see who Naomi Campbell was hanging out with. Listen to this. Naomi Campbell is the woman who connects Epstein and Diddy. This part is really interesting. Here we go. Photos from the occasion where Naomi Campbell claims to have first met Epstein. Her 31st birthday party hosted by Flavio's yacht. Now this shows Naomi and Epstein associates in the same photograph. Those photographs are now rather infamous as they also showed Epstein's most prominent accuser, an underage Virginia Giuffre. Let's look at these pictures real quick. So there's Virginia Giuffre right there with, that's Prince Andrew. There's Ghislaine Maxwell. Look at the second picture. There's Ghislaine Maxwell. There's Naomi Campbell over here. I hope you guys can follow my cursor so you can see it. And then in this picture over here on the right, there's Virginia Giuffre. And then here's Virginia Giuffre right here. And there's Naomi Campbell right there. Look at the bottom right-hand corner here where her face is circled. This is Virginia Giuffre. And there's Naomi Campbell. I need you guys to answer a question for me because this really stood out to me. Over here in this picture, you got all these adults with a child. And Naomi Campbell is right there. Now, when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, Naomi Campbell tried to say, oh, I didn't really, have contact with them, anymore. I don't know about this. And it wasn't that type of relationship. But that wasn't the case. What we found out later is that even after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, Naomi Campbell and her team were asking for his address information at the prison so they can find a way to contact him. She was still trying to contact him. She needs to be looked into more. Because here's what I believe. I believe Naomi Campbell, if she didn't allegedly participate in the trafficking, I believe she knew. She knew him too damn long for that to go on. Him and Ghislaine Maxwell. She's the missing link. We know that Jeffrey Epstein was deep in the modeling industry. We know that Jeffrey Epstein was harassing some of the Victoria's Secret models. We know they complained to Les Wexner about that back in the day. And when you think about where they could have gotten some of these girls from, well, the whole modeling industry, it makes a lot of sense. And I want to bring up another thing because people forget about this. Let's all remember that Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka, was also a teen model with the Casablancas group. So I want to know, what did Tyra Banks see when she was modeling back in those days? And she talks about her experience of going on to these go-sees and all that type of stuff. And some people didn't want to work with her and all that. What about all the other stuff, Tyra? What about all the other stuff that was happening to those models? Those teenage girls at that time. Because what really bothered me, the fact that she was not willing to even say when it came to the sexual assault, she wasn't willing to say that should have never been filmed, da-da-da-da-da-da. Shandy even said Tyra went on to embarrass her later on after the fact by bringing Shandy onto her talk show. Tyra had a talk show too. And putting it up on the screen and saying, how did you feel about that? In front of an audience of people. So I really feel, especially after reading a lot of these articles by Whitney Webb, I really feel the modeling industry was a pipeline. And I'm curious to see what Tyra saw and what she knew. Because I don't care if it was a different time back in 2003, which it wasn't that much of a different time. The big difference was we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have TikTok. You know, that was a big difference. So yeah, a lot of these things, you couldn't put it on social media. But it is also 2026 now when you're speaking about it now, when you're still not willing to take any accountability. So after all these years, when these other girls have come forward, you know, we all kind of been sitting back like, why isn't Tyra saying anything? They came forward and told some scary truths about what she did and what she let happen. And so sometimes, you know, sometimes they come back. And so she finally comes back in this docuseries and won't take accountability. So what does Tyra know? Because I think that, let me pull this down here. I think that this whole trafficking thing, I mean, it made perfect sense if you look back on it, because a lot of those girls that were modeling, you know, they kind of got an age limit with that, at least back in those days. A lot of those girls that were just starting out were in their teens. So it makes you wonder. And how is it that Naomi Campbell don't have to testify? She's all up in these pictures. Something to think about. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Arcane said as young as 13. Yes. I think Brooke Shields was what, 14 when she, or 13 or 14 when she started modeling. So it goes way back. And some people were telling me, you know, early on, they said, oh, I don't like that people are going after Tyra. We're not playing no favorites over here. I was like, no, we are not. Aaron said, I feel for women, man. Now they have these beautiful queens thinking they need Botox and diaper butt implants. Diaper butt. Thank you for the super chat, Weremy. Tyra was an executive producer. She set the direction. People who speak up in our society are always vilified at work, church, social media, or reality TV. Thank you, Roger. Tyra, a woman who comes from a community whose thumbs down skinny, thumbs up for curves, should have known better. The dominant society pushes their beliefs of beauty on us. Yes, they do. Thank you for the super sticker, the unsubscribed queen. Thank you, Measured Man. Look up Grace Jones. She told us plenty of times as well. And if you look up how bad they talked about her in the Epstein files. Interesting. And Measured Man said, yes, she did an interview with Diddy right before his court date. See, let's get the Rumble rant. Thank you. All right. Thank you for the tip, Mark. I don't get it, Sab. Tyra Banks was always voluptuous as hell. She was never skinny. Well, she was still skinny. I mean, she had, you know, boobs, but she was still skinny. Some of these people look even smaller in person. You'd be surprised. Okay, and now we're going to get to the creepy story. This one's really creepy. Oh my God. Okay. Again, the theme, ladies and gentlemen, is sometimes they come back. One of the things that has been brought forward from the Epstein files, and I got to tell you again, this is really creepy. It seems like from the emails that Epstein and his friends were hunting Black people. Not exaggerating, not joking around. This is wild and crazy. And this is also important because it was just announced by the United Nations that they are saying that the crimes that happen that are displayed in the Epstein files are now a crime against humanity. It was just announced recently by Rokana. UN human rights experts just concluded the Epstein files may have crimes against humanity. This is a big deal, guys. Check this out.
United Nations human rights experts just finished a review of the 3.5 million documents that the Department of Justice released because of Thomas Massie and my Epstein Transparency Act. What they found is genuinely revolting. They found instances of sexual slavery, of forced disappearances, of torture. They concluded that it could be, quote, crimes against humanity. And they said that the Department of Justice did not comply with the law and had excessive redactions. That is why today I'm calling for three things. First, the Department of Justice must set up a special prosecution committee to go after those in the Epstein files that are accountable. Second, the Speaker must set up a select committee to have Epstein hearings where every person who went to that island is called in towards Congress and testifies. And finally, we must have the full release of the Epstein files, not protecting the predators, but protecting survivors.
Hey, and let's remember, we don't even get this far had it not been for those three working together on this. They really didn't want to release any of this information, guys. So this is what I said, like when you have people that are willing to come forward and to fight. So here is one of the emails. This is wild. Look at this, guys. So what it says here, apparently Epstein goes to a party to hunt ends, as he quotes. There are screenshots here. I had to blur out this image, obviously. But this email is October 2016 from Jeffrey Epstein. Thanks, thrilling hunt. Ariane de Rothschild. Here we go with the Rothschilds again. Going to mean Lana's party now to hunt. Guess what? There ends. You can see it right here. That was from January 1st. And it says, guess what? There ends, the N word. Snipe hunt is over. Moon crickets in field bag. What were you talking about, Jeff? Remember, Maria Farmer said this group of people was incredibly elitist and incredibly racist. People are asking questions now. They're like, were they hunting people? Maybe some of those movies tried to tell us things a long time ago. There were movies about this. There's a movie coming out about this recently. Looks like in the next couple of months, about rich people hunting people. I can't remember the name of the one movie, but someone can probably tell me in the chat. Do you remember the movie with Ice-T, rapper Ice-T, turned actor at that point? He went with a group of friends to hang out in the wilderness, and they said they were going hunting, but he didn't know that they were actually talking about him, that he was the person, he was what was going to be hunted, not actual animals. Does anybody remember the name of that movie? Someone will probably tell me in the chat, but yeah. And I've been wondering for a long time. Skylar, surviving the game. Thank you. I've been wondering about this for a long time. We know there was a really popular show just recently, which wrapped up, called Squid Game. And watching Squid Game, watching all these people that are in debt have to compete for money only to find out that they are going to be killed if they lose the game. You know, I really started thinking about that. And I'm like, what if there is rich people on some island somewhere that's rounding up poor people that are in debt and saying, hey, you can play this game. And if you win, you get millions and millions of dollars and you can take care of your debt. And if the people lose the game, they're actually killed. How do we know? Jeffrey Epstein had a whole damn island trafficking people for years. How do we know there isn't something like that? I almost kind of feel like sometimes Hollywood may be trying to tell us these things. So you'll see this clip here. This guy, his voice is kind of funny, just to forewarn you, but this guy was flipping out about it. Check it out.
So apparently, Epstein emails expose disturbing parties for hunting black people. These motherfuckers, not only did they have to traffic children, rape them, beat them, murder them, torture them, drink their blood to maintain youthfulness, literally cause most of the bad things happening on Earth now. All these world events like 9/11 and so many other fucked up things, and poisoning our food. But now according to the emails, they had hunting parties to kill black people. This is not a fucking conspiracy theorist, guys. Bro, I will show you the emails. Going to Mean Lana's party now to hunt, right? You're probably thinking, oh, they're probably just hunting animals. Wait for it. Guess what? They are. Yeah. So they were essentially hunting black people on Epstein's island, on top of raping kids, torturing kids, murdering kids, kidnapping children. And then he has the fucking audacity to say, thanks, thrilling hunt. This was 2016, guys.
2016. Yeah. And then they have it in email. Baby Love said, Jesus. Yeah. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, when people say, what do all these rich people do with their time? Honestly, this would not surprise me if these things were actually happening, because I do feel like maybe Hollywood has been trying to tell us a little, on the low key, watch the movie Eyes Wide Shut. If you haven't seen it, now's a good time to watch it with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, where they're telling you about these elite societies and these rituals that they have. Maybe they've been trying to tell us.
2016. This was not the night. This was 2016. 2016. The peak of SoundCloud era. Way more recent. Oh, it was 10 years ago. This was way more recent than you guys think it was, bro. They've been doing, this is not old news. And the thing is, they're still doing stuff like this to this day. And they have been doing stuff like this since biblical times, since colonization, since slavery, since the Industrial Revolution. What makes somebody, what is in somebody's bloodline to make you hate somebody so much because of the color of their skin? What did black people do to you guys? What did black people do to you guys? Please tell me. What did they do? Nothing. Nothing. You know what it is? It's deeper than jealousy. It's deeper than racism. It's deeper than hate or envy or hatred or anger. This is evil, guys. This is evil. This right here is evil. This is evil. It is. You cannot be human at that point. All these colonizers and slave owners and racist people and all these elite pedophile demons. They're demons. They're fucking demons. I don't even think they're human. I don't even think they're fucking human, bro.
People have been wondering that too. Listen, nothing would surprise me nowadays. Nothing would surprise me nowadays. Quinn said evil and satanic. Like I said, you never know. Hey, listen, there's all kind of things going on. Megan Fox said so herself, actress Megan Fox. She said a while back that her and what's his name, Machine Gun Kelly, that they drank blood. She wasn't even trying to hide it. You don't know what people are doing behind closed doors. We don't know what these people have been doing. But it's sick. This is what I was saying. The emails, the files are not just about the trafficking. It's about some other stuff too. And honestly, I think when it comes to Donald Trump and he was like, my friends could get into trouble, I think he might have been more concerned about some of this other stuff.
They're hunting black out of everybody. You didn't even hunt Latinos. I don't know. I don't know anymore.
We don't know.
Black people are the main ones. And people wonder all the time, why do I always speak about black people? For shit like this. They're the main ones. They're the main ones getting targeted by demons. The movie Get Out was not just a metaphor or a symbol for racism. They were literally, because remember, they put the truth in movies and the fake in real life. They were literally telling us what they do to black people on these islands, even like from slavery to now. They still do this shit on these rich ass islands, in these underground temples. I'm telling you, they still do this shit, bro. The colonizers and the demons are still here amongst us to this day.
Listen, let me say something to you. What about all these people that go missing and are never found? What happens? Does everyone remember Elizabeth Smart, I think was her last name? Remember Elizabeth Smart? Remember she was missing for, I think, about a year? Teenage girl at the time. This guy came and took her out of her parents' home. And he was a part of some crazy kind of cult or whatever and stuff like that. Like these people that now, luckily for Elizabeth, she made it back home. But what about all the people, the other people that are missing, and you never hear about these people again? When I was a kid, they used to put missing kids' faces on milk cartons. You know, eventually they stopped doing that. It's rough being a millennial. We saw some things. But when you see all these pictures of these people that have gone missing, what happens to those people? How do we know that those people aren't trafficked? We don't know. If you look even further at some of the other things in the files too about this, look at what they said about the Black Congressional Caucus. This just goes to show you just how evil these people were. This is a conversation between Jeffrey Epstein and his brother, Mark. This is in 2014. You remember Gene, the black guy that's worked for me for decades? On Monday, I hosted a reception here for about 40 people. 15 were members of the Black Congressional Caucus. They came to New York to attend a Humpty Dumpty program at the UN. Yesterday, I told Gene, who was over the house the night before, he said to me, "You should have invited me. I would have put on a suit and tie. I know how to handle them. I would have came in and said, 'Hey there, ends.'" Do you guys think Gene actually really said that? Or you think that was Epstein's chance to use that word and show how racist he is? Also, this reveals something else. Who were the members of the Congressional Black Caucus that went to go hang out with Epstein? Dun, dun, dun. We have another one here, a leaked email. In this leaked email, Jeffrey Epstein discussed genetically engineering Black people to make them smarter. Guys, I can't even make this up if I wanted to. This is from Joshua Bach to Jeffrey Epstein. Notice how they redact some names, but not others. Some thoughts I meant to send back for a long time. No worry, if I understand correctly, you are suggesting there are layers. I through N. Let's call them L1. And I think that's LA, hard to see there. There are times TL through TN. And then conjuncture, that changing the time, correlations by genetic switch or other method, you might be able to make Black smarter by changing the time for motor layer development and changing the time for other layers, like telomeres for the cell are the equivalents for their layers. As you talked about, culling the unused neurons in each layer. They're talking about genetically engineering Black people. It's almost like the movie Get Out was really trying to let you know. And it goes on more here. This part about the brains. Listen to this. Exactly. I looked up the stats. Black kids in the US have slower cognitive development and never catch up, which the study, of course, attributed to social factors without any evidence, and they had faster motor development. I suspect this means their brains are slower at learning high-level concepts. You see how they were? And by the way, again, Congressional Black Caucus members were hanging out with this guy, apparently, according to the emails. Maria Farmer was right. We go on to see here, Jeffrey Epstein talks about turning Blacks into chimps. Here's an email here from September 2017 between Jeffrey Epstein and David Grossoff. Blacks turn into chimps. It's amazing to see. This is where they're coming from, talking about survival mode, where David says here, the survival mode in quotes in the headline will be replaced with survival mode, not in quotes. Do you have an idea what happened to your staff and how they are doing? P.S. Solar powered batteries and ham radio in portable rigs clearly ought to be more deployed in the Caribbean. And he responds with, Blacks turn into chimps. It's amazing to see. What the hell? This one here from Jeffrey Epstein, they redacted who he sent this to. This was 2014. Sad news. CNN reported today that Walt Disney's new film called Jet Black, the African-American version of Snow White, has been canceled. All of the 7 dwarfs, listen to this, dealer, stealer, mugger, forger, drive-by, homeboy, and shank have refused to sing hi ho, because they say it offends Black prostitutes. They also say they have no intention of singing "It's Off to Work We Go." This is what he really thought. This is who they're really trying to protect. And again, I told you guys, Israelis, they believe this shit too. They believe this, superiority or whatever. Now, at one point, when he was called out about this in this interview with Steve Bannon, who's another one who's facing heat right now, this is what he said to try to push back on that.
There's this argument that I reject, that Black people are less intelligent than white people. It's not true. We know, for example, that if I was in the forest and I had to run from the lion or figure out a way not to be eaten, and my competition is a local African, I'm the one who's getting eaten because they have the intelligence. There's this argument that
But the emails say the exact opposite. Let me tell you something about con artists, right? Like, con artists have a way of also being very charming, right? Like, they have a way of getting a message across that makes you believe them. That's how they can con people so much. And they can just lie like very easily. It just flows right off their tongue. No stuttering or anything like that. Steve Bannon is the one who did this interview. I heard MAGA's melting down at him right now. I think this woman here summed it up very well when she talks about what she saw in these files.
Y'all, these files, I am barely making it through, y'all. I am praying. There's just no way that we're walking around having an everyday normal life. There's just no way. And the amount of posts that I'm seeing on here and threads, just these specific ones, saying that nobody else except for the people that are on these platforms knows. News outlets aren't playing anything, and I don't expect them to, but I expect.
Pause it here for a second because the music, I just want to say, because she mentioned news outlets. Have you guys noticed that corporate media isn't showing you some of the things that independent media is showing you from these files? Yeah.
Human beings with morality to do the right thing. Look into this. Stop being fucking silent. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I feel the same way, you guys. Like, please, and I say this, please protect your children, protect yourselves. Like, it's some crazies out there, and Jeffrey Epstein said that in that interview with Steve Bannon. Oh no, I don't think that Black people are not intelligent. But the emails, sometimes they come back. The emails show the exact opposite. And now we see that Bill Gates announced that he's not going to attend this event he was supposed to speak at. It's an international event. He decided to step down as a speaker from that. And I'm like, nah, Bill, don't run. Don't run now, Bill. Own that shit. Go to the event and speak. And when people tear you down, you stand there and you deal with that like a man. That's what you do at this point in time now. Everybody's running. I'm seeing all these people step down from positions, CEO positions that they have. Everybody is running away because they're caught. So now all of a sudden he's worried. He's concerned. Oh no. and others as well. There are sick people out there, folks. It's not just Jeffrey Epstein. Sick people. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Joy says, where are the arrests? Exactly. Well, we're going to get to the Prince Andrew one, but it's not what you think it is. Like, it's an arrest in reference to Epstein, but we'll get into the release and all that stuff as well. Thank you, Roger. Surviving the Game, Gary Busey and Charles Button. That's the movie. Thank you, Measured Men. Don't forget Fiona Barnett told us about Nicole Kidman's father, Anthony Kidman, the Hiltons, and our kids. It's called Eyes Wide Open. Oh, Balenciaga. Interesting. Rick says, can you explain why so many Black people are missing and never found? Listen. Hey, maybe they not really, that's what I'm saying. Like, where do people go? Where do they end up? Dutch said, the movie is how they let us know. Yeah, Joy said, look at Minority Report, Eyes Wide Shut, and RoboCop. Thank you, Grant. Would You Rather is another movie. Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one. I have to check it out. Thank you, Roger. It is easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. There you go. Thank you, Ron. In 2020, there was a movie called The Hunt. It's about elites hunting people for sport. It was pushed back a couple of times because of the controversy. Interesting. So there's another one. Leonard, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you, Deep Green. Holy fuck, this is some Saw movie level of evil. Saw movies were something else, huh? Thank you, Measured Men. Look up Fox Island and all the boys they traffic. We need to push this out. It's real. The Franklin cover up. Thank you, Philly. I wonder if there is a connection to the Atlanta child murderers. That's another good point. Thank you, Cloudness. And this is why I don't separate WSB1 fam. Thank you, Courtney. And Obama kind of looks like Epstein. That's crazy. Thank you, Laura. So it turns out that the Pizzagate issue was not a conspiracy theory after all. Yeah, I think those people are owed an apology. Looks like they were onto something. Thank you, Paintball. Come USA, no arrest. Thank you for that. Let's get that Rumble rant and let's keep it moving and grooving. Hey. Thank you, Mark. Sabby, it reminds me of The Simpsons when both political candidates were alien monsters that laughed at the audience and said, if you vote third party, you're throwing your vote away. I remember that. Oh, The Simpsons. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the next story, ladies and gents. This is the Prince Andrew story. So early Thursday morning, it was the first thing that I saw that Prince Andrew was arrested. Now, he was not arrested because of the sexual allegations, the trafficking allegations of the Epstein network. He was allegedly arrested because he showed misconduct in giving information to Jeffrey Epstein. What that information is yet to be seen. But the reality is the royal family here, they have to be embarrassed. Andrew has to be embarrassing for the royal family. I don't want people to get distracted and think it's just about misconduct. I think they're trying to get Andrew on something else instead of labeling him as what he really is, which is a sex trafficker and someone who was a predator. I'll take you back to when Virginia Giuffre, rest in peace, Virginia. Prince Andrew was the first one that I saw that was mentioned when all this Epstein stuff was revealed. And that was because of Virginia Giuffre. Just a reminder.
Giuffre says she was instructed to have sexual encounters with the prince 3 times when she was 17. The night in London, she says, was the first. It's the same story she told Savannah.
Prince Andrew.
There's Savannah Guthrie, ladies and gentlemen. Remember I told you she's the one who had the interview with Virginia Giuffre and some of the other survivors as well. Her mom is still missing. Let's continue.
Of course. denies that this ever happened.
He denies that it ever happened, and he's going to keep denying that it ever happened. But he knows the truth, and I know the truth.
I have no recollection of ever meeting her.
In his widely criticized interview with the BBC, the Queen's second son denied ever having sex with Giuffre and said he couldn't explain the photo.
That's me, but whether that's my hand or whether that's the position, I have simply no recollection of a photograph ever being taken.
The people in the
That's him, but he doesn't think that's his hand. So you look at this photo very closely. Let me know, is there a ghost in this picture? Is someone else's hand just magically propped up behind Virginia Giuffre here?
inside are going to keep coming up with these ridiculous excuses, like the photo was doctored, or he came to New York to break up with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, come on. I'm calling BS on this because that's what it is.
Prince Andrew.
So just a reminder there, right? So again, Prince Andrew was the first one that I saw mentioned as a predator with the Epstein files. Early Thursday morning, he was arrested.
And breaking news, some stunning news out of London. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former Prince Andrew, has been arrested, presumably in connection with his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to go straight to our foreign correspondent, James Longman.
Hi, George. Yes, extraordinary news out of the UK this morning. The former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, has this morning been arrested on the Sandringham estate where he was living after having been removed, of course, from the home he was living in Windsor. The Thames Valley Police here in the UK, put out a statement. They haven't named him specifically, but they are saying a man in his 60s has been arrested. As part of the investigation, they say we have today arrested a man in his 60s from Norfolk on suspicion of misconduct in public office and are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. They say the man remains in police custody at this time. They are not, like I say, naming Andrew, but we know that it is him. This pertains to emails, we believe, that were published recently in the most recent Epstein files published by the Department of Justice, which seem to suggest, they allege that Andrew was forwarding emails to Jeffrey Epstein whilst he was trade envoy here in the UK. Now, as a public official, that is misconduct. That is what the police are alleging. That's the charges that they presumably are bringing to him if they do indeed charge him. He is under arrest and remains in custody for that. We will wait and see what further details they are yet to give us. But, you know, as trade envoy, he spent more than 10 years traveling around the world on behalf of the British government to kind of foment relationships with other countries to better Britain's kind of economic outlook, if you like. That was seen as a member of the royal family could do this. His status would provide Britain with that kind of heft on the world stage. But the emails from the Department of Justice suggest that when he was in these conversations in places like Singapore, Hong Kong, I've got a list here in front of me, other countries that he went to, he would then have these kind of confidential documents in these emails, and then it looks like he was forwarding them on to Jeffrey Epstein, another one here from Vietnam, another from China. So if you look at the date on some of these emails as well, that is what is interesting. One of them here in front of me from 2010. Of course, that's well after Jeffrey Epstein had already faced charges for soliciting sex from a minor. So that is.
Of course. And this is the thing. I think the people that look the most damning in the eye of the public are those that continue to have a relationship with him after he already, was charged or was convicted. And I think this is the big thing, because I got to say this. I don't know if you ever saw the show The Crown. It's actually a really good show, but it's about the royal family. I think it's 5 seasons. And one of the things that is mentioned in the show The Crown is this issue with Prince Andrew going after underage girls. It's in the show. Now, when you watch these kind of shows, you do have to stop and check and see, okay, what was exaggerated, what actually happened, because they add in things for entertainment. But I don't know about that one. I mean, it's in the show where the Queen pushes back on Andrew for going after these underage girls. Now, I don't know if that means the Queen actually did that. I don't know. But I didn't hear the royal family push back on that after that show was released. So this is why I had the question in the poll. Do you think they knew all along? Do you think they've been protecting him all this time? Because I think they have been. I think they've known about Andrew for a long time. And it was one of them things they just kind of, let's just brush it under the rug and let's just let it be what it is. Because let's be clear, if he wasn't a prince and he was just some average dude in London, he would have been in jail. The police tried to come arrest him last time when Virginia first came forward. And because of who he is, that's why he's been able to get away with it.
This goes to the heart of this entire issue around Andrew and Epstein. The relationship that he had with that convicted sex offender went far beyond the time which he said that he had broken all contact with him. People at home might remember the disastrous interview he gave in 2019 to the BBC, where he said that he had traveled to the United States, to New York, to sever his ties with Jeffrey Epstein, that he was there to basically explain to him that he no longer wanted to be in communication with him. These emails from the Department of Justice suggest that that was not true, that he basically lied about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein in that interview. He has always denied, we should say, any wrongdoing when it comes to the allegations about sex trafficking. Virginia Giuffre, of course, the individual who alleged that she was sex trafficked by Epstein for sex with Andrew, he has denied that strenuously. We haven't had comment from him or the palace on these latest allegations about emails to Jeffrey Epstein in his position as trade envoy. But one imagines that at some point today, Buckingham Palace will have to release some kind of statement. They are.
And what makes it even crazy is this was the infamous picture. Ghislaine Maxwell was right there in the picture in the background. But according to Prince Andrew, he don't remember this picture at all. It's interesting. He's acting like that was the first time he saw this picture on the internet. This picture been around for years on the internet. Yeah, he lied about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Like I said, if you didn't do anything wrong, why are you lying? And he's lying right now. He's still lying about Virginia Giuffre. He was released very quickly. Yes, they sometimes come back, but it's a weird situation because it's like they released him. He's not charged, but he's not technically free. Listen to this.
Now let's bring in our Patrick Reeville just outside Buckingham Palace. So Patrick, we're being told that Andrew has been released, but is under investigation and not charged. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, Kira, as you say, just in the past half hour or so, Andrew has been seen leaving the police station. He was captured on camera by reporters there. As you say, the police saying that he's being released and remains under investigation. At the moment, it does not yet appear that charges have been brought against him. We had heard from prosecutors saying they had not yet advised the police on whether a case could be brought against him. Usually in the UK, police do the investigating and then prosecutors assess the evidence and decide whether enough can be brought, whether the evidence is sufficient to bring a trial. But obviously, we still know very little about what these allegations are. We understand that it is related to these emails in the Epstein files that where it appears that Andrew was basically passing sensitive information to Jeffrey Epstein about his travels as a trade envoy. And as a trade envoy, he would have been, in theory, bound by some rules of confidentiality under British government policy and law. But as you say, for now, we don't yet know too much more about that. But clearly an absolutely extraordinary day here in the UK, one that is unprecedented for the royal family. No royal has been arrested in modern history. And so a very difficult day for the royal family and for the monarchy.
Yeah, but come on, man. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, they know. What do you mean very difficult day? It wasn't a very difficult day when Virginia Giuffre came forward. It wasn't a very difficult day then. They knew how Andrew was. They been knew about this. And it seems like to me what they're trying to do, they're trying to get him on something, a lesser charge that's still connected to Epstein from the files to make it seem like they're doing some type of justice. But that way he still won't be called a sex abuser. That's what it seems like to me. They're still in so many ways trying to protect him. But my question is, where are the arrests of people here in the United States? So he's still under investigation, should have been under investigation a long time ago. King Charles did issue a statement from His Majesty the King. I have learned with deepest concern the news about Andrew and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair, and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full, wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I continue in our duty and service to you all. Now, we have to remember, didn't King Charles announce about a year ago that he found out that he has cancer? So keep that in mind too. They already stripped Andrew of a couple of titles from what I understand. But what do you mean, Charles? Like, what do you mean that when you say, I learned with deepest concern the news about Andrew? What do you mean you just learned? What are you talking about? What do you mean you just learned? People been knew. You knew. That's why they stripped him of his titles, because of the first time this information was released about him. So it's hilarious to me. There was all this focus on Harry and Meghan when you really should have been focusing on Andrew. The Queen protected Andrew. That's my opinion there. I mean, it's kind of hard to shrug off this. This is probably one of the more infamous pictures that dropped from the recent Epstein files. Notice they didn't blur his face. And the reason why they didn't, like I said, they had already made a decision who were going to be the fall guys. So that's why they didn't blur his face. People still won't say David Copperfield. Everyone's still walking around saying the magician. We all know it's David Copperfield. Why are they protecting him? Let's go to the next part here, Eric. So, I mean, this stuff been out there, right? But Donald Trump was asked about this. Now, all of a sudden, everybody pretending they don't know each other, you know? Like Donald Trump was asked about it when Prince Andrew was arrested. Listen to what he says.
President Trump was asked about Andrew this morning in London.
I don't know Prince Andrew, but it's a tough story. It's a very tough story. I don't know him, no.
President Trump has been photographed with Prince Andrew as far back as the year 2000. He is seen here alongside the Prince and First Lady at his Mar-a-Lago estate. Epstein was also at that part.
So, guys, this is Fox News. Fox News can't even defend Donald Trump on this one. Now, all of a sudden, nobody know anybody. You guys notice this? Now, all of a sudden, nobody knows Epstein. I don't know Epstein. I know the guy. I know him. Nobody knows Prince Andrew now. All of a sudden, I don't know Prince Andrew. I don't know him at all. It gets bad when Fox News can't run cover for you now. But here's the thing. It's not just him. Les Wexner, who really kicked off a lot of this stuff by giving Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney, Les Wexner had a deposition recently. Now, there were Congress members that went to Ohio to interrogate him. Now, why they had to go to him, I don't know. Maybe it's a legal thing around this. But they went to interrogate him because he is the one who really kicked a lot of this off financially.
There's never been any allegation that Wexner has participated in the sex abuse of children, but he always needed to be questioned under oath because he was the primary source of Epstein's wealth and his social legitimacy. So I think he's going to be asked what specific services did Epstein provide that justified his extraordinary trust in him, such as giving Epstein power of attorney and enormous compensation. I mean, one thing we still don't know about Epstein is how did he accumulate such wealth? What were his sources of income? And how much did Wexner pay him over the years? So there are a lot of open questions. Plus, Wexner said repeatedly that he believed he could trust Epstein based on positive reports from several friends. Well, who were these friends? Does he know names of co-conspirators? So there are a lot of questions he'll be asked today.
So this is the other thing about Les Wexner, right? There is actually a documentary called Victoria's Secret Angels and Demons, something like that. And I watched this. Lex Wexner is in the docuseries, like in the docuseries, talking about how he met Jeffrey Epstein and all these things. Like there's multiple documentaries out there about this. And it's like Lex Wexner is all of a sudden pretending as though I was conned, I was fooled by Jeffrey Epstein. He gave this guy money. He gave this guy money. They even called it out here. This is when they were having the recess for that deposition. Listen.
We want to talk to anyone that has information about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's crime, abuse, and trafficking of women and girls. There is no single person that was more involved in providing Jeffrey Epstein with the financial support to commit his crimes than Les Wexner. That is already, as we all know, in the public record. We've also directly heard from survivors about Mr. Wexner, about his involvement, and their concerns as to the enormous amount of money that was essentially transferred over and paid to by Mr. Epstein. To be very clear, we know of approximately over $1 billion, it looks like. It's about $1 billion that was either transferred, provided in stocks, or given directly to Mr. Epstein by Wexner.
But you know, Les Wexner was up there. They released some of the video. I haven't seen all of it, but Les Wexner was there, and he basically like, oh, I don't really remember how I met him. I don't. Now all of a sudden, nobody know anybody. I don't know how I met this person. I meet this person. I don't know them at all. You guys know that number one for this deposition. Did you guys know that none of the Republican Congress members went to this? Ohio's a red state. None of them, not one went. Weird, isn't it? Les Wexner gave him power of attorney. Do you know how powerful that is? And I'm going to keep it straight and 100 with you. You just don't go give somebody power of attorney that you just think may be a smart person. You know, you just met this guy. You giving him power of attorney if y'all got something going on. You know what I'm saying? Something. And that's why people allude to the fact that there was probably some type of romantic relationship going on between those two. But now he apparently don't remember and don't know nothing, can't remember anything. He gave him money in the beginning. And there are still some things we may never get the answers to, because here's the thing. In multiple of these documentaries about Epstein, there were Victoria's Secret models and other models that came to Les Wexner early on and complained about Jeffrey Epstein. There was one model in particular that came forward, and she said she went to Les Wexner and she said that Jeffrey Epstein assaulted her. Les Wexner didn't do anything about it. So while he sat there and testified with these Congress members, I didn't know anything about that. I was tricked. He conned me. I was misled. I was duped. He knew. They all knew. And we may never know the whole full story here. We may never know it. But it wasn't just Epstein. When you look at Les Wexner, let's not forget about this guy. The Abercrombie and Fitch guy. See how I'm trying to show you a connection. Former Abercrombie CEO is charged with running sex trafficking ring. I covered this about a year ago when this story was announced. Guess who hired this guy? Les Wexner. Ta-da! Now, with the Abercrombie situation, it wasn't women apparently that were being trafficked. It was the male models that were being trafficked and sexually abused. And he just happened to be hired by Les Wexner. So this isn't just a trafficking network. This is a criminal enterprise. There may also be some ties in there. I got to look a little bit deeper. There may also be some mob ties in there. Like, people be quick to let you know. People think that the mob, the mafia, that's like a done thing because they came after the 5 families. No, I mean, people still operate, just in different ways. Because you don't get away with that much stuff with nothing. Now, nobody know anybody. Nobody know Prince Andrew. Nobody know Jeffrey Epstein. It's absolutely insane. These people should be shamed everywhere that they go. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you for the super chat. Music is life. Trump literally called for a version of The Purge. Psycho, man. Thank you, Paintball. You need to watch Redacted. Prince Andrew for state secrets over arm deals. I'm from England. Yeah, I do have to watch that one. I haven't watched that show. Philip said, is Savannah Guthrie being made an example of? That's what I've wondered, you know. Huey says, this is a power play to get Andrew out of the way of inheriting the crown. Don't get this twisted. Thank you, Wasim. There is a Canadian rumor that Indigenous kids went missing because of Queen Elizabeth and Philip from residential schools. I've heard about that. The royal family got so, I'm going to tell you, that family is wild. When you go through the history, thank you, Paintball. The Queen paid her $10 million. She to the devil money. Thank you, Wasim. Apparently, Andrew turned 66 when he got arrested. An arrest involves 6 police cars. I think he will be gone and nothing will be found out. Pamela said, good thing Andrew didn't commit a crime like hold up Free Palestine sign. Then he'd be jailed ASAP. That's the crazy part about all this. Thank you. Where's the love? Back in the 80s, the tabloids blasted articles about Andrew having questionable affairs, including dating a porn star before he married Fergie. They called him a playboy back then. Thanks, Danny. I remember watching Chelsea lately back in 2010 or 2011 on her roundtable. She talked about Andrew back then. See, thank you, Measured Men. Just like they did Jeffries from Abercrombie and Fitch, who trafficked Ashton Kutcher and the rest of the models, who was doing the bending. Amen. And thank you, Helpful Harm. Wexner is a fall guy for the Roths and higher elite. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. All right, ladies and gents, we have one more story for you. Do me a solid and smash that like if you haven't done so. If you have, thank you for hitting the like button. Let's keep it moving and grooving. The theme is sometimes they come back and sometimes something comes back about Erika Kirk. And this was sent to me recently. We have talked about Erika Kirk's mom and dad being connected with defense. We have talked about her questionable history, how she got to Charlie Kirk, how she became a part of Turning Point. We've gone through all of that. We've debunked many of her lies. But now we need to look a little bit deeper at this family tree, because now it has been brought to my attention that Erika may be connected to the Rothsteins. And I want you to see this for yourself, because if this is true, that means that this could have been planned a long time ago. This video here, we'll get into it. Shout out to Project Constitution. Erika Kirk is a Rothstein. People need to see this, guys. This goes way back.
We see a common thread that this same female is commenting on Erika's posts, and she just so happens to look like Erika's roommate who appears in these videos. And her name is Nicole Rothstein. And Nicole is actually not just her roommate or soulmate or best friend, whatever she calls her. Nicole is also Erika's cousin. And this is going to become a much bigger deal as we move forward. Nicole, unlike Erika, at least, at face value comes from money, and interesting money at that. The Rothstein name is not exactly synonymous with honesty. If they were in a dictionary, those two are on the opposite ends of one another. In fact, antonyms would probably be a better way to put it. In this photo Erika posted in 2017, she is sitting next to a man whom I wager to be in his 50s, and another man who's standing in front of her, who I would wager is putting the pedal to the metal, pushing 70, late 70s that is. And at the time, and really up until recently, if you had clicked on that photo on Erika Kirk's account on Instagram, you would notice that there's someone tagged. And that someone tagged is named Alan Rothstein, who Erika says is her uncle. And this old dude, I'm presuming here is Gramps, and this uncle that she references, I can only imagine is on the mother's side and is a member of that unknown segment of Erika's family that is seemingly being obfuscated. In any case, though, when reviewing who Alan Rothstein is, I can understand why Erika may have chosen to hide that side of her family. Because Alan is not, as Hannah Montana says, the boy, the boy, the boy, the honest goods, the real McCoy. My goodness. Uncle Alan has been involved in several criminal operations. For instance, there is a long...
Pause. So, yes, Alan Rothstein, and what you're going to see here, all these organizations that he was a part of, criminal organizations, and it goes very deep when you see this family tree. And this actually does matter, because at first I pointed to like, okay, well, the mom, you know, she worked for Homeland Security, dad worked for defense in Israel, but now it gets even deeper. So pay attention here.
Long case file which goes into detail about how Alan defrauded someone of hundreds of thousands of dollars. He was supposed to be a consultant, but was actually just an insider, kind of like a spy, and was just getting info and using his position to spend hundreds of thousands of the company's dollars doing nothing. And Alan, if you're watching this, just want to say, that's not cool, bro. Jerk move. The document then gets deep into legal jargon, but discusses tens of millions of dollars at one point and falsely claimed assets, and then goes into the realm where a lawyer might be mildly confused. At his heart, though, Alan seems to possess the sticky fingers that his namesake is so infamous for, as we shall see. And lo and behold, someone who likes to pilfer the proverbial cookie jar also possesses a number of what are pretty obvious, in my opinion, front companies. I run into a ton of these in videos. They're companies with little or no website, no customer history, no definable product, and they just sit there for years and sometimes decades doing nothing. But they are convenient for running money through, especially ill-gotten money, which seems to be Alan's MO. Not kidding, I was peeping through his companies and he's got a property management company, a hedge fund, and a bunch of others, and none of them seem to actually do much. That all said, whatever Alan and his family are doing is evidently working quite well for them, I might add. As Alan, through a tool I use, I learned that Alan lives in a $13 million home. Not bad for a guy who seems to have never really worked a job or built anything himself. And that sort of cash also speaks to who was funding Erika's cousin Nicole, and possibly Erika herself, while they live the expensive Manhattan life, doing nothing of material value.
And here's something else we got to bring up too that I had talked about before, right? Something else that I wanted to talk about with Erika Kirk. Remember when we talked about the fact that she was working for that Corcoran Realtor Group in New York City? She had no real estate experience. All right, fine. You got to get started somewhere. You get started with a company that is like selling these luxury houses and apartments. And it just also happens to be the same company that ends up selling Epstein's real estate. That was very weird. I mean, it was kind of strange. Usually when someone's just starting out in real estate, you're not immediately just thrusted into luxury real estate. I found that to be kind of strange. All these different things that just seem to drop into her lap. But if you follow the family tree, maybe now people start to understand how she was able to have those opportunities. Let's continue on here.
Now let's jump another step into the family and hit up Carla Solomon, originally Carla Francevy. This is apparently Erika's dad's sister, so once again, a little info on the mom's side. Carla can be explained in the following words. From the YouTube commenter, Vivian Ballard 391 5 years ago. I'm not implying that she is only interested in the financial stability of men. However, it must be said that she avoids relations with impoverished men. YouTube really is a wonderful place. Thank you for that comment. In other words, Carla married a man about 29 years older than her by the name of Jack David Solomon.
Jack David Solomon. So he married into Erika Kirk's family. This guy's really important. Watch.
A 29-year age difference. Jack himself is a bit of a character. He's one of the few people who have been born in America that possesses such an immense affinity for Israel. And oh yeah, we're going there. Jack has been a leading executive, or simply the leading executive, at a plethora of some of the largest companies on Earth, many of which possess multi-billion-dollar valuations and or are simply government operations.
Vice president, president, chairman, foundation chairman, chairman of the board of the directors. How do you have these high, profile titles with every single thing?
For instance, for whatever reason, he was plopped into the chairman position of the board of directors for things like Federal Land and Development Corporation for 36 years, and Federal Research and Development, and Advanced Patent Technical. All sorts of things that when I'm reading it make me go, who are you really, bro? Especially because a sort of thing like that requires power, influence, money, control, and access, and gains you a lot of power, influence, money, control, and access. And for this next bit, I'm just going to skim through some of the organizations he's been highlighted as being a member of from his death website, although I assure you there are likely many, many others. Membership, National Directory Quality Operations Foundation, 1963 to 1966. He's a sponsor of the National Hospital of Denver. He's also the co-founder of the Israeli Armored Corps Museum. Patron or Chadash, Orphanage Israel. Vice Chairman, California Democratic Council, 19.
So here is where you start to see the Israel connection, right? So all of these things.
1966 to 1970, candidate for California State. 1966, director of the United Jewish Foundation. 1956 to 1967, committee member for the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. Member of the World Affairs Council, member of the President's Cabinet for the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, member Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce. Oh yeah, that would be because he was a controversial casino owner. He was also the director of the Utah Shakespearean Festival 1999 to 2000. Seems like a weird addition. He's also the member of the American Air Museum in Britain, a foundation member, the Armed Forces Commission and Electronics Association. Sounds powerful. National Aeronautics Association, International Association of Business and Professional, honorary. B'nai B'rith, President Club, Utah Valley State College.
This ding, 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 ding. So Solomon, who married into Erika Kirk's family, was also, see, look at the school, Utah Valley State College. Does that sound familiar to you guys? That's the same school Charlie Kirk was killed at. It could just be a coincidence, but I think that that is interesting. So Solomon was also involved there as well. Like, who does all these things and is literally at the top of everything? How do you have the top seat at every single organization or job that you have?
Yes, that's where Charlie Kirk was shot. President Club, Brigham Young University. President Club, World Jewish Congress, life. 32nd degree Mason, Scottish Rite, life. Yeah, so a lot of things should stand out to you there. The UVU, the massive ties to Israel, the powerful committees and organizations. And I could really out for a while just about the Israel connections alone and why that's weird. But if I have to tell you that, then you've probably been living under a rock and missed the dozens of red flags I just.
So there's a lot of red flags here that I think people need to pay attention to. Like I said, how do you get in that type of a situation where you just happen to be front and center of everything? So let's go to the next part here.
In Jerusalem, which is rather a big deal to folks over there. Needless to say, he's sort of a huge.
Go back, sorry.
So deep that bro paid for and restored the ancient Zion's Gate and Plaza in Jerusalem, which is rather a big deal to folks over there. Needless to say, he's sort of a huge deal in that community, and he's also very clearly connected to the highest echelons of the government and business, and the people who decide if and what you shall eat. What an odd family member for Erika to have, considering I was under the impression she was a Christian girl from Scottsdale, Arizona. But if this all didn't elucidate you to the fact that we are talking about some seriously connected people, like I said, he's a member of this thing called, that I can't pronounce, it's a Jewish secret society named B'nai B'rith. It's a very unique organization, very secret society-esque, very Freemason-esque, which apparently is controversial because they claim it's antiseptic to say that they are Freemason related, despite having a huge portion of their founding members actually being Freemasons as well. So take that as you may. But whatever, toss that aside. We also know from that whole blurb, Jackie Poo is a 32nd degree Freemason, which should be ringing bells for everybody, from the most unfamiliar with this sort of quote-unquote conspiracy theory world to the most familiar. The Masons are weird people. I've had personal experiences with them, for sure on a list of theirs. That's a story for another time. But if you're really unfamiliar, putting it as short as I can, it's an organization that is a complete secret society. It's very occult. They worship Satan, but that's a point for another time. They have been known as global manipulators for centuries. Countries have banned them because of who they are, but they are known to use their wealth and intrigue to control nations and to shape the futures of people and nations.
Again, it reminds me of Eyes Wide Shut. That's what it reminds me of.
And may or may not, definitely were, in my opinion, involved in assassinations historically, and things like the planting of people into positions of power that allow them to exert further control and influence, and the everyday stuff. But I'm sure none of that should sound even remotely familiar or be ringing true for the overarching Erika Kirk story, because that'd be weird. On top of all this, Solomon's also known for some immense scandals, including stock fraud, investor fraud, casino fraud. In fact, he built a casino and then got taken out of the CEO position because of his fraudulent activities. He wasn't allowed to be in control of the company anymore. All sorts of stuff like that. And you could go, it seems like quite the character. And yet he amassed massive fortunes and got appointed to all these big companies and was also appointed to the government to very important roles. So it makes you wonder who he actually knew and who he actually was. But leaving those two oddball characters right in the dust, here's where things are going to get even loonier. Rothstein is not only a relatively rare name, making it more than not simple to trace. It's also an infamous name, most especially if you're a sports aficionado, specifically baseball. Let me explain though. Long before Alan and Jack were manipulating corporations, looting the masses, and stacking it up into their $13 million homes, let me reiterate, $13 million, that's the sort of money only like a handful of people on Earth possess, so what's going on there? And I think I know the answer because there is a pretty clear progenitor to the Rothstein proclivity of purloining the populace's purse. And his name was Arnold Rothstein, a Jewish criminal who, it's widely asserted, fixed the 1919 World Series. He bet over $250,000, which at that time is an unprecedented fortune, roughly $5 million today, but that doesn't really factor in for the lack of buying power and what all that means. He, in essence, made the wager, that Chicago would lose to the Cincinnati Red Stockings in the 1919 World Series. For color on who Rothstein is, he didn't come out of nowhere. Rothstein was a longtime fixer, or in other words, cheater, as well as financier of crimes of all kinds, from the least degenerate to the maximum degeneracy. But in this specific instance, with the 1919 World Series, he, through a series of payoffs and threats to, people's families, ensured that the Cincinnati Reds won the people who he bet on, which is illegal for all sorts of reasons. Arnold, though.
Something else I want to mention, because he's getting into like the sports gambling part, but something else I want to mention, because we want to fast forward to the family tree that I think people need to take into consideration. So you guys got to remember back in the day with the casinos, because Solomon also was involved with the casinos. You got to remember back in the day, like the mob ran casinos. Watch the movie Casino. There's a lot of, truths in there. And that's another thing I was looking at too. Like, what are the chances that there could have been some type of mob affiliation there as well with Solomon? Now, when we look at this family tree, watch this part.
And I think it's one of the most critical links possible. I hope you all can assist me here with it. Arnold Rothstein, likely resulting from his profession of, murdering people and causing crime, kept it under wraps if and how many children he had and where they lived. And so it's been very hard to really connect to who he is. But if you look down the family tree and at some of his siblings and all that, you will notice that there are more Rothsteins that continue on the family name. But they all do something very interesting across genealogy sites. And the genealogy sites themselves might be in on this. And the thing they do is that they redact the children of these initial Rothsteins. And so that makes it very
Interesting.
hard, dare I say impossible, for us to know who are actually Rothsteins today and if they're 100% connected to one another. And so I ask you guys to help me out here to try and find these missing links to start building this family tree so we can officially connect Erika Kirk to these Rothsteins and to these known criminals and justice system manipulators, just generally bad people. And I imagine that they probably keep this quiet and are trying to hide their identities, especially if Erika Kirk is one of them, because it would be pretty obvious that we shouldn't trust these people, as there are generations of Rothsteins who have committed all of these heinous crimes. And to think that they would be in such positions of power today might cause the American people to go, huh, we don't really want that, do we? But I don't want to yap too much, but we have this.
So you guys get the idea. Measurement says, Sabby Sabs, I have confirmed casino was about Erika's family. I have to say allegedly, of course, and we have receipts. We'll send. They have been pulling so much down. That's another thing too, because people have started looking into her a little bit more. We're noticing that things are just being deleted, right? But here's the thing. This is important for people to know, because when I tell you, no, you don't just happen to work hard and things just work out. For some, yes. But for many, they got to where they are because they knew someone. And now you're looking at this stuff with Erika, and now it makes sense how she's been able to just hop around to this thing, to that thing, to this career, to that career, and not really even have to worry about money. That was another thing that stood out to me. Yeah, I know you get money when you win like the beauty pageants, but it doesn't last forever, right? It was interesting to me that she was living in New York City and she's working for this real estate agency, but apparently never sold anything. So she wasn't making money from that. We all know New York City is really expensive. And then she decides to interview for this job for Turning Point USA. And it was kind of weird because she said she was happy doing what she was doing in New York. So it almost kind of seemed like that was an assignment that she was put on. Then you go back to the Romania situation. She started a charity when she was 17, a nonprofit, excuse me, when she was 17, the Romanian Angels or whatever. Yeah, but look at the family that she coming from. What I'm saying is it's being sold to the public as though, look at me, I worked hard and that's how I achieved these things. When the reality is she had the right connections, the right people in the family to be able to get the door open for those types of opportunities. This really matters. The fact that Jack Solomon, who I had never heard of until recently when this information was sent my way, the fact that Jack Solomon married into her family, and this is the same guy who also was affiliated with Utah, State Valley, the same school that Charlie Kirk was killed at. And then this guy also had his hand in the casino, the Vegas world as well. Then also on top of that, this guy just happened to be the top title of every single job or organization that he was a part of. Then you have the Alan Rothstein connection as well. So it's alleged that that is Erika's uncle. That's not a nobody person. The point is this: Charlie Kirk was never going to have the opportunity to criticize Israel the way that he started doing and stay married to Erika Kirk. You hear me? Charlie Kirk was never going to have the opportunity to continue to criticize Israel the way that he started doing and stay married to Erika Kirk. That's why you hear people saying it seems like she was a honeypot. Things don't add up. There's other things people are posting on social media about. It looks like she may have also had another relationship with a female. Looks like it's an intimate relationship with the female, allegedly. Don't know. That girl looks like she was Miss North Carolina at some point in time, which it is what it is. If that's you, you do you. But that's not the message that Erika was selling. When we go back and we watch those old videos, it was very clear to me. It looks like Erika was happiest when she was out there doing what she was doing, whether it was doing the music videos or auditioning for The Amazing Race. That looked like that's what Erika wanted to do. But she out here sitting on couches with Barry Weiss and all of them and telling all the other women, get married young and don't wait to have kids when you was out here living your best life? I don't know. That's another good question. People are asking, where are the kids? Don't know. Because you see Erika everywhere, but you don't seem to see her with these kids. So there's rumors about that too. People are like, well, the kids, were they taken away? Were they not? I don't know. But it's just very weird. There was nothing about her that I saw in those other videos, and I found out recently, that gave me the impression that she wanted to be a traditional wife. And that's fine. You don't have to be that. Problem is, she's selling that, and she ain't about it. That's my thing. I don't sit here and claim to be some traditional wife either, but if I did, you know, I would want to be called out on it. It's like, you know. So I don't know, guys. This goes deeper than I realized. Like I said, when you're looking at the family tree, the connections, this goes a lot deeper. Let's see that poll. Poll to the world. Are you for sure? Who do you love? All right. Thank you for the poll, ladies and gents. Prince Andrew has been arrested. Do you believe the royals protected Andrew? 83% said yes, of course they did. 7% said no, I don't think so. 9% said I'm not sure. And 2%, you know, shout out to 2% keeping it real. 2% said, who is Prince Andrew? I understand. Shout out to you keeping it real. We have 3,214 votes. Thank you guys so much. Hey, way to keep it real. I think Eric is going to close out the show here, ladies and gents. And I'll be live again on Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time.
All right. And, you know, the connection I'm always going to make is kind of the old MCDS type of thing, right? They got this hugely moneyed class, and, you know, they use that money to corrupt the government. And, you know,
I'm not even calling them billionaires anymore. I'm starting to call them what people passed it on, said, call them the Epstein class.
The Epstein class. Well, there you go. But then we got to have a demand, right? So what's our demand? Our demand is that we have an actual government that can investigate these things and give some measure of justice. And when you have the demands, then you get into the solution. So there you go, MCDS connection.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys, that is it for me tonight. Please have a great weekend. Again, I'll be live Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Eric's going to close out the show and read the super chat. So thank you, guys.
You queued up. All right. All right, we're going to do a little show close here. See what we got for super chats. If you want to see more about what I was talking about with MCDS, that connects into 11 Demands, which you can see here at 11demands.org if you want to check more of that out. But we are going to go to some super chats. Let's see what's here in the queue. A couple of these from the previous story as well. Kenman says, thanks for the super chat. Kenman says, Naomi Campbell is super attractive, though. All right. Thank you, Kenman. And thanks for the super chat, Marvin Vargas. He says, Wexner, part of Mega Group 13 Zio billionaires. All right. And thanks for this one from John Trevina. He says, possible hints in the movies. How about Kaiser Soze in the Usual Suspects? Might be a certain little country, JFK, 9/11, Iraq, Charlie Kirk, and others. And yeah, and I would just say, you know, it's whether or not the movies are right or the theories are right or wrong, we do still come back to the same place. When you connect the dots, you know, you got to deal with the money and corruption. So as long as we connect back to those things, I think it's fine to speculate and talk about these things. But then, you know, I would just urge people to, you know, make the connections. Shout out to new member Had Matter. Became a new member on YouTube. Always like to see that. And thanks for this super chat from Where Is the Love? Just a trivia side note, Eyes Wide Shut was a remake of a German movie called Trauma Novel, that is on YouTube. All right, interesting. And thanks for the super chat. Taurus's Love Luxury, who says, remember those tunnels under the synagogues in 2020? That just got swept under the rug. They found bloody mattresses, baby strollers. Disgusting. There you go. And shout out to new member, Mimicrist. Appreciate that. New members. All right. That is just about going to do it for us tonight. Thanks all for watching and catching. Like I said, do keep connecting those dots and check out 11 Demands for more on that. And of course, we talk about that here. We'll have another big show for you on Sunday. See, another super chat just popped in here from Radical Spirit Dog, a super sticker. Thanks for that. And yeah, so I'll say keep connecting those dots. And like Sabby will say, have a good night. Keep up the fight. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks, everyone.